AO Rumble is a strategic card game made by the AO crew over the last year or so. It's a game about controlling server members as a Discord moderator to take down the other mod's crew, and forever claim the server's ownership. This video will serve as a starting guide to learn the basics of the game, from the board's layout to an explanation of each card type as well as the main mechanics. If you'd rather read a guide instead of watching a video, you can find a link to one in the description, as well as a link to play the game itself, as it is entirely digital and free to play at playingcards.io. There are 5 types of cards in AO Rumble: member cards, quote cards, command cards, channel cards, and bot cards. They can all be found on this side of the board, and will usually only be placed in specific spots when drawn. Other items include a coin, different tokens, a general card, and a timer. Each player starts with a set amount of member, quote, and/or bot cards depending on the starting layout chosen. They can determine who goes first by flipping a coin, and one of them saying Dibsies on Among Us. If heads, the one who said Dibsies on Among Us will start. Otherwise, the one who didn't say Dibsies on Among Us will start. The object of the game is to take down all of your opponent's members using the different cards at your disposal. Alternatively, you can also win the game by having 3 bot cards on your side of the board. These are not the only ways to win, but they should be your main focus. Member cards are AO Rumble's main actors. When drawn, member cards should be placed on 3 active spots, unless stated otherwise. If no active member spots are left, member cards should be put in an active spot. If no inactive spots are left, this card is discarded. When first placed, a member will start with a set amount of patience and irritation tokens specified on the card. A member can irritate an opposing member of the server if they are in an active spot, which will remove their patience tokens. The amount of patience tokens removed depends on the amount of irritation tokens the attacking member has. So, for example, if a member has 2 irritation tokens, they will remove 2 patience tokens from whoever they attacked. After attacking with a member card, and unless specified otherwise, the moderator's turn will end. If a member's patience reaches 0, they will be kicked from the server, which will place them in the discard pile. Each member card has a unique ability, which can range from useless to game-changing, to potentially hindering its own moderator. The specifics of how an ability works and how it's activated is precise in the member card's description. Abilities may or may not end one's turn. For example, Twingle McDingle has the Poison Goodbye ability, which lets you take 1 patience token from an active member card of your choice. If a member card is on an inactive spot, it will not be able to attack or use its ability, but will be safe from active members' attacks, unless specified otherwise. Moderators can move inactive members to active spots, which will not use up a turn, but that member card cannot be used during this turn. Quote cards are support cards that can be used at any point during a moderator's turn. They do not take up a turn, and up to 2 of them can be used per turn. Once drawn, a moderator can store them in their empty, inactive spots for later uses during one of their turns. When using a quote card, one must say the quote aloud to their opponent. For example, the 1 kick to the chin is done for card can put an active member card of your choice at 1 patience. Channel cards are placed in the middle of the playing field when drawn, and either change the rules of the game or other cards. At the start of the game, players are located within #gen. For example, while #announcement is active, all manual actions that a moderator can do during a turn, such as using member abilities or quote cards, will end their turn. Furthermore, members with multiple attacks can only attack one time. At any point during a player's turn, they can draw a command card, which will use up that turn. These cards will be used immediately upon being drawn, and have various effects depending on the card. Channels, quotes, and members can only be drawn through a command card's effect or a member's abilities. What cards are the most important cards? If any moderator has 3 of them, the game will end with them as a winner. These cards cannot do anything during the game, with the exception of the Todd card, if the player so chooses. There are a few ways to draw bot cards, either through card mechanics, such as a member's ability or from a command card, or by sacrificing a newly drawn card. Any non-bot card drawn can be sacrificed by placing it in the moderator's personal sacrifice pile. The card must be discarded face down without the moderator knowing its effect, and it cannot be recovered. If the amount of cards in the sacrifice pile reaches 5, you may draw a bot card. Some cards' effects may put member cards in timeout for a few turns. If a moderator's member card is timed out, put as many timeout tokens on this card as the amount of turns it will be timed out for. Remove 1 token at the end of that moderator's turn. Cards that have abilities activating every turn will activate at the start of their respective moderator's turn. Some cards have abilities that activate as soon as they're put on an active or inactive spot. If such cards are placed before the game starts, as in after placing cards according to a starting layout, their abilities must be executed regardless of who should play first. If both moderators have these cards, they must first decide who should start by a coin toss as normal. The starting moderator's active spot member cards will execute their abilities, then the opposing moderator will execute their own cards' abilities as well. The game will then start as normal.
John example here for another example. I say dibs is on Among Us and then I do a coin toss that lands on tails, so my opponent will start. Which means that he will be the one doing the active spot abilities first. One of his active spot abilities involves drawing a card because of C-Dot, and another one of his active spot abilities is making both of us remove an irritation token from one of our cards. We do that. I use my active spot ability, which involves giving one of my card's tokens to another card, Fumikado here, and putting her in a 2-turn timeout. If that timeout ends and she's not dead, I get to draw a bot card. If she dies before the timeout ends, however, all of my cards lose 1 patience token. So he uses his quote card here to give Chubb's patience tokens to Yan Toilets, bear with me for a second, and then make Chubb attack Fumikado, which makes her lose half of her patience tokens, so I'm in grave danger right now. But I decide to use my quote card, which lets me ban Chubb and put all of my opponent's cards in a 1-turn timeout. I'm starting to think that this card is a little too overpowered. Since quote cards don't end turns, I draw a command card. This specific card lets me erase 2 irritation tokens from one of my opponent's cards. So I do that on Yan Toilets. Poor him. My opponent can't do anything, so he draws a command card which lets him remove all quote cards from the board, but since there's no quote card on the board, it's essentially a turn wasted, and his card's timeouts end. I draw a command card myself, which lets me remove an irritation token from one of his cards. That's kind of funny. At that point, Fumikado's timeout had ended, so I drew a boss card. Which, yeah, it puts me in a pretty advantageous position.
And last but not least, the most important rule of AO Rumble: do not have fun while playing this game. It's a matter of life and death. You hear me?